Hey everyone, and welcome to day 10 of our RV-10 build. Today we are continuing work on the rudder. Today is also the day that we had two situations happen with the build that actually resulted in us ordering two new parts from Vans for the first time, and fortunately the only time we've had to do it thus far. I will get to what happened when it happens here in the video, but let's get looking at what happened today so far. We had already put together the skins with the skeleton with the clecos yesterday, and so today is match drilling day. And so Ty's going and starting the work there on the skins with the match drilling. And then one of the things you had to do is you had to match drill the skins with the trailing edge wedge as well. And you had to make sure that the holes you drilled in the trailing edge wedge were perpendicular to the cord line of the rudder and not perpendicular to the skins. What we did to achieve this is to make sort of a horizontal plumb line to help indicate where the cord line of the rudder was by tying a piece of string around one of the clecos that went in the middle of both the top and bottom rib, and then pulling the string through a center hole at the back of each of those ribs, and using a level then to help us make sure that we had the rudder sitting completely parallel to the table so that we knew that the holes that we were drilling with the drill lined up perpendicular to that would make it completely perpendicular to the cord line like the instructions said. And we were able to adjust it to make it perfectly parallel with the table using different wood blocks and shims that we had to prop it up. I put smaller blocks of wood underneath the holes on the trailing edge wedge as I was drilling them, just to make sure there was support and there wasn't any bend in the skins or the wedge as we were drilling. After you drill all these different so many holes in the rudder, now you've got to go and move all of the clecos around so that you can drill the ones that had the clecos in them. So as you can see, it's just a lot of clecos on both sides of the rudder, on all the skins there. And of course, once you finish one side of the rudder, you've got to flip the whole thing over and repeat the process on the other side. Our puppies came out to visit us, so that was really nice to have them come out and feel comfortable coming out into the garage. Tyler started calling them our hanger puppies, so I think it's really cute. Back to the build. Someone had asked in a comment on a previous video about our pneumatic cleco gun and if it was worth it. And definitely on parts like this, it's 100% worth it, where you can see there's so many clecos and they're all there in a row, and you've got to take all of them, move them over one to do the drilling, and then take them all out. It's really great having it for stuff like this, absolutely. Now we've done all of the match drilling and we're pulling out all of the clecos, because now that you've done all the match drilling, all of these parts have to have their holes deburred. So the edges we'd already deburred on the spar and the stiffeners there and on the skins, but every single one of those holes has to be deburred, and then we had to crimp the edge there of both skins. That's what I was doing at the back table to make sure that it helps sit nice and flush against the trailing edge wedge. The other thing we had to do is on all of the stiffeners, you have to grind down the leading edge, and that's in their instructions. Let me see. In the manual, it has a great little section on it. Here we go. And that is in section 5.2. Goes over it and talks about how if it's a blunt edge, that it might provide more of like a harsh bump in the skin, whereas if you round it down, there's a nice smooth transition and you're less likely to have kind of that little line there indicating exactly where the edge of the stiffener is. So that's why the bench grinder's out, and Tyler's there in the back with this great little drill that we got from Home Depot. It was like 20 bucks, and it's nice because it's just a little battery powered one, but it's nothing that's super high powered. It runs at a very low RPM, and we put the deburring bit in there because on the parts like this where you have so many holes to deburr, it just made it a lot easier. And again, it's not too powerful where you're going to end up countersinking the holes. It's just enough to deburr them. And keep in mind, all of these skins with all of those holes, you're deburring front and back. That was a lot of work. Not much else to say right now, just lots and lots and lots and lots of deburring. Can't move forward until we get all those holes deburred. I know it's kind of hard to get an idea for how long all of this stuff is taking, because this is what, like maybe a 10-minute video. But I went back and looked at the timestamps, and we spent over 2 hours just deburring all of those different holes. But it has to be done. You want to do it to make sure that you don't have any problems when you're dimpling, and you don't have any problems where the skin's connecting, so it's got to be done. I guess since we're still sitting here deburring, the only other thing I would make sure to mention is make sure when you're taking apart your pieces or when you're putting them together that you're labeling them. So you're labeling front and back, left and right if you have identical ones. I think that we found it's much easier to label it as soon as you put it together versus trying to remember to do it at the end. So if there's any type of directionality or order, make sure to mark it not only on the piece but then onto whatever part it's connecting to, so you just have much easier time when you are trying to put everything back together again. And so you don't accidentally take them apart without having labeled them. Yes, that is the voice of experience talking. We did have that happen at least once that I remember, but the good news is with recording all these videos, we were able to go back and look through the footage on the camera and figure out where the different part went that we didn't have labeled properly. So that helped out, having the camera around. So you can see here we were pretty pooped out after doing all of the deburring on all of the holes and finally getting that done. So now that the deburring was all finished, we got to move ahead to the dimpling process. So everything had to be dimpled on the skins, on the stiffeners, on the ribs, and so got out the DRDT2 to start all of the dimpling on the skins. And yes, we really like having the DRDT2. We did use one of the C-frames in a class that we took where you hit the rod into each of the holes there that you're trying to dimple, and we've just found that we really enjoy having the DRDT2. The consistency and the ease of use it's just been really nice. I think that we just found it goes smoother, easier, faster than our experience using the C-frame. I know that there's people who swear by both, so I think it's going to be kind of a personal preference thing, but for us, it's just been really easy to use, really quick to use, and again, you know that once you've set it, all of your dimples are going to turn out exactly the same way. I know that we haven't built the wraparound table for the DRDT2, but as you can see, we've opted for the very high-tech solution of sticking a package of yellow microfiber towels under the long end of the skins as we're dimpling them, and so far between the two of us and that, it's worked out just fine. So right here is where the first mistake happened, and Tyler was dimpling the stiffeners and accidentally put one of them on there backwards. What I mean by that is instead of the flange hanging off the front end of the DRDT2, he had it where the flange was on the back, and when we went down to dimple it, it smashed up the stiffener because it all got jammed out of place. And it was just a mistake. It's an accident. These kind of things are just, that's life. It's going to happen. We tried to flatten it down and just weren't really happy with how it looked and thought that, this is a stiffener on the rudder and we'd rather just order a replacement piece from Vans and have it in there properly instead of going with the part that we managed to try and bend back into place. The second mistake is happening right behind the DRDT2. I am there countersinking the trailing edge wedge because it has to be countersunk to fit into the dimples on both skins of the rudder. And I had set the depth of the microstop for the countersink so that it would countersink them to fit into the skins. The problem is that with that very thin little wedge and countersinking on both sides, it enlarged the holes and led to a lot of chattering, and it wasn't pretty. It was not right. The holes were big. I was pretty upset, but again, that's another thing where it's like, we'd rather just order the new part and do it properly and have it be right. And I think that going forward, if I were to do it again, I would use the countersink with the drill press instead of with the hand drill. We didn't have a drill press at the time. We've since purchased one because when you are using the hand drill, your hand's going to shake, and even though you have the trailing edge wedge clamp down and the jig clamp down, you're still going to have some movement with your hand, and I think that by instead putting the jig and the trailing edge wedge on the drill press, that you have less chance of there being any of that chattering, even if you do have any type of a little bit of a problem with the countersink. Fortunately, again, when we got the new part in, we didn't have any problems doing that the second time. So live and learn. But yeah, just want to be upfront and honest with you guys. Mistakes happen, and you just try to figure out the best and safest way to move forward. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. And leave me a comment below if you've had a mistake or mishap on your build project.